Look, it's the Skylanders guy. I have I have a very limited interaction with Spyro. I haven't I haven't played a lot of Spyro games. I'm pretty sure this one's on the list though. I'm pretty sure I have played this game before. Um but I don't have any distinct Spyro memories. I may have very briefly played part of the Reignited trilogy. I feel like there's a chance that I've very briefly played that. But I'll tell you this, I have watched that speedrun documentary about Spyro, and um it brought up some interesting things like how, you know, some people just, they come from one place and they just glitch hunt and they find something really quickly, right? And there's these like crazy glitches in Spyro and stuff. And I actually, when I was glitch hunting for Tokobot, which is a different game, I actually employed one of the tactics that one of the Spyro people um explained. Basically, they used cheats to moon jump in in the game. So they were cheating, and you're probably thinking like, oh well, how is that glitch hunting if you're cheating? Um, and it's really quite simple actually. The way that it helps is just purely because um it allows you to check for collision that might be faulty, places that you might be able to get to if you really tried under normal circumstances. Um and it was pretty handy. I made a wee moon jump cheat using an emulator, and I looked for some faulty collision in, and I didn't find anything. But that's besides the point, right? Is the fact that I didn't find anything doesn't matter. The point is that my one of my main memories of this game is actually from that interaction with the community that I kind of had. And I think it's pretty cool. Bug hunting and looking for glitches in speedruns. It's always a very rewarding thing if you find them. If you don't find them, it's less rewarding, but it's still kind of cool because you can like rule out whether there is a bug there or not, and I think that's kind of valuable in its own right. So I do kind of like that. Um, but yeah, I spent a lot of time for Tokobot, and I don't mind telling you this now because Tokobot's a game that I've mentioned a few times on the channel, and it's a game that I do plan to play at some point on Gold, probably during this break. But yeah, it's just it's a game that is um very important to me, and a game that I spent a lot of time looking for glitches in and stuff because I used to speedrun it. I don't really speedrun it anymore, although it's not out of the question. And yeah, so one thing is that what was I gonna say? I spent a lot of time glitch hunting it. And a big part of that was looking for an out of bounds glitch, because if you can get out of bounds in Tokobot Plus, you can really open the levels up entirely. Because for some reason, when you're out of bounds, you're afforded A lot of this looks dangerous, but it's not hurting. You're afforded a lot of height when you jump. For some reason, when you jump out of bounds, you basically just keep rising infinitely. You just keep moving in the direction that you started moving in. And what that means is, if you find an out of bounds glitch in a level, you can seriously open up that level. I mean, it can potentially bring the level it can potentially bring the level down to like, minutes in full game. So like it's really useful, right? Um and there was one level in particular where there was no out of bounds glitch known, but it would have saved so much time if we found one. And I spent a lot of time looking for an out of bounds glitch. It was chapter 4, and you know what? The craziest part is, I'll be honest. The craziest part is, I did find an out of bounds glitch when I played it, but it wasn't useful because to do the out of bounds, you had to put yourself, in fact, so far out of bounds that you couldn't really do anything with that height, right? Like you couldn't really go anywhere. So it's kind of a shame that bug never worked. But yeah, I mean, part of like glitch hunting and stuff is ruling out ideas that you think might work. So it is pretty useful even if you don't find anything. It's just significantly less rewarding to, glitch hunt a game for like 12 hours and come back saying, yeah, I didn't find anything, but at least we can be pretty sure there's no bugs here. Because, like, what if there is? You could always be overlooking something. I don't know. Fun stuff though. Glitch hunting. It's very fun. And I often find, when I play a new game or I do something for the first time, I always find myself kind of employing those glitch hunting strategies and stuff, just because it's very fun to find bugs in games, and it's very easy oftentimes to just like, oh, let's rub up against a wall and see if I go through it. Like a lot of the time it's that simple. It's not always that simple, but a lot of the time it is that simple. And if you don't actually pop out of bounds, you can oftentimes learn a lot from from about how the game works, just from doing stupid stuff like that, right? And then it puts you in a better position to look for more bugs later. And it is interesting when you have like highly desirable glitches. You have like, I want to get here, but we can't get here without some kind of bug to do it, right? And it's like, okay, well, how do I approach this? It's a completely like different kind of task, because it's almost like problem solving, whereas speedrunning is like an execution thing for most games, at least. Um, it is really fun, and yeah. So I watched this like Spyro video. It was a while ago, but I watched a Spyro video that was largely about, actually, it was about the speedrunning history of the game, but it was largely about the discoveries that are made that make the game faster. And it's always important to emphasize that with a lot of these games, um, that it is like a communal effort, right? Like the person executing at the top level is most of the time not the person who's found all the glitches. And a lot of the time they are people who have found a bunch of glitches, just not necessarily, the progenitor of all speed tech, because that is actually the minority case and usually only happens for very unpopular games. Like, obviously, if I get like, I don't know, if someone gets a Super Mario 120 star record, like, obviously that achievement is their own. But you gotta pay respects to the people that got you there, and those people are very often the people who are looking to find out what strats are the fastest, the people who are like looking for glitches and stuff. I haven't acknowledged it until now, but the game is lagging quite a lot. This is not normal for my GameCube. My GameCube usually doesn't lag this much. I can't imagine what might be happening for my Nintendo GameCube to be lagging so much. Spyro is one of those like classic PlayStation 2 games. And you know, PlayStation 2 is one of the greatest consoles of all time. I've always said this, and I will continue to say it. You know, the GameCube is cool, and the Xbox is cool. I've got both. I've got a GameCube. I've got an original Xbox. I've got a PS2, and I have to say, just the sheer breadth of the library on the PS2 should be enough. But also like they've got exclusives. They got like Ratchet and Clank. That's not the only exclusive, but it's the only one I can think of right now. Ratchet and Clank is awesome. The only trouble is with PlayStation 2 is that it's seldom the best way. It's seldom the best way to play the games that are on it. Like, yeah, it's got like Sonic Heroes. It's got Sonic Heroes. It's not the best place to play Sonic Heroes. I would much rather play any Sonic game. I would rather play on any system other than the PlayStation 2, right? But I do remember getting Sonic Gems Collection and playing Sonic the Fighters on it, and me and my friend back then, we used to like, I mean, we were just two people, so like obviously we didn't really figure the actual meta out. But we used to like make tier lists and stuff of the game. We had like, I don't really remember exactly what it looked like. I remember Sonic being the top tier. I mean, we didn't have the broken characters on. We didn't have like the like boss characters and stuff. So like we weren't rating those ones. We were just rating like the normal cast. And we had Sonic in top tier. We had like Amy, I think, as the worst character. And then I don't really remember how it went from there, but I think Bark was in the middle kind of tier, and Bean, I think, was the second best character on our tier list. I seem to remember that. Sonic the Fighters was a lot of fun. You know, I don't play a lot of I don't play any fighting games competitively, like traditional fighters. And let me be honest, I mean, Sonic the Fighters is not very traditional, but it's you know, it's like kind of, you know, it's kind of more traditional than Smash is kind of what I'm getting at. And you know, I had a lot of fun kind of experiencing that game with another person who was not good at fighting games, and we were just coming up with our own stuff, and we were probably very far from the truth. I remember like really when we were playing, guard breaks were really emphasized. So in Sonic the Fighters you have 5 blocks basically, and if you break all 5 you can't block anymore. So it's like really good to be able to break people's guard. And so any character that was good at that was like automatically a high tier. So we would have like Sonic really high because his spin dash would break like 3 shields at once if you held shield. So you kind of had to react to the spin dash and then just get hit by it or dodge it, because if you held shield you would just get absolutely destroyed. And yeah, we used to really emphasize the value of shields in that game. It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. I kind of miss, you know, like just because when I was a kid, it's like very rarely did the games I have like very rarely were they games that I specifically asked for. It's like most of the games I had, my parents just bought, and I didn't have any influence in. And the only exceptions to that were when I was really like irritating and like, you gotta get me this game. I remember playing Secret Agent Clank on my PSP, but it was the demo. I remember playing the demo on my PSP and being like, this is awesome, you need to get me every Ratchet and Clank game. And so they're like, okay, we'll get you the first Ratchet and Clank game. Bear in mind, all of this is probably happening in like 2014, 2013. So it's not like PS2 games are expensive. It's not like PS2 games are expensive. You could have bought every Ratchet and Clank game for probably like £10. And that's like 4 games, right? You get 1, 2, 3, and you get Gladiator, and that would probably be like £10. Like, unironically, they would have been cheap as chips, because they are currently cheap as chips, because they're PS2 games and there's a million of them. But they were like, okay, well, I mean, you can have the first Ratchet and Clank game, and I'm like, this is awesome, give me the next one. And I'm like, okay, here's Ratchet 2. Up Your Arsenal. I don't know if it was called Up Your... I think it was called Locked and Loaded? Was Locked and Loaded 3? One of them... They changed in it. Like, in America, they're called something different, I think. It's like Up Your Arsenal, but then it gets changed in certain regions. I don't really remember. Ratchet 2. Awesome game. Ratchet 3 is my favorite, but Ratchet 2, amazing, fantastic game. And then the obsession just started. I used to be so into Ratchet and Clank. It's one of my favorite, like, series of all time. So I still haven't played the PS5 Ratchet. I'm really sad about that. I just don't have a PS5, but once I get one, oh boy, I will be playing, what's it called, Rift Apart? I'll play it. But yeah, I miss when, I guess, I miss when, you know, games were given to me, they were handed to me, and I just had to, like, you just have to put up with what you've got. Because even though I play a lot of games this year, you know, I can veto them, and I can say, no, I don't want to play that one, I'm going to play something else. But as a kid, it's like, what, are you really going to put up a stink about fucking, I don't know, let me try and think of a game I had on PS2 at the time. One that I haven't mentioned already. Am I really going to put up a stink about Jak 2? Actually, Jak 2 is awesome, but just imagine I was like a Jak 2 hater. Am I really going to put up a stink about Jak 2 because, you know, what, I would rather play something else? It's like, no, you're going to play Jak 2. And I probably wouldn't have played all of those games if I didn't just get given them, right? If I didn't just like get them handed to me. There's a lot of games I would never have played as a kid. Like, if it was up to me, would I have played Jak 2? Maybe I would have. It depends on if the box art is cool enough. Maybe I would have played more like, I don't know, it's weird. I mean, I had a lot of licensed games. I played a ton of Nickelodeon games. You'd have like the volcano one where you play as like SpongeBob and Timmy Turner. That game's cool. Maybe I should play that on the channel next. Once I plug in my PS2, this is the thing. It's gonna be a bit annoying for viewers, but I am just gonna like plug in my consoles one at a time and bulk record every game I own for that console. So as soon as I plug in my Wii, you're getting like 50 GameCube games, something. And I'm still playing GameCube games because you can emulate them pretty well. but what, like, you know, when I plug in my PS2, I'm gonna play every PS2 game I own, which is a lot. It's not that many anymore, but it's more than like any other system probably, just because they're so cheap. I go to a shop, I'm like, KO the Kangaroo for £1. Sure, I already own that game. Why not? Let's buy it again. There are some games for which I own multiple PS2 copies of them. I own like 2 copies of Cow the Kangaroo, and I own like, genuinely, I think I own like 6 copies of Tokobot, but they're all, you know, it's not, I mean, it is, some of them are, like, I think I have 2 European copies, a Japanese copy, and I don't have any American copies. So I don't own 6 copies. I was exaggerating. I do own more PSP copies, though. So I have Tokobot on PSP, and then I have, I think, the American and Japanese PSP copies. I don't have a PSP, though, so I can't record those videos. Maybe I can find someone who owns a PSP and say, please let me borrow your PSP to record Melon Keeper Gold. there's a chance I might be able to get away with that. Anyway, at this point, I'm just rambling about the PS2. So maybe I should stop playing GameCube games. I don't know.